Hello, my name is Mervyn Evans. Mr. Biden, I want to strongly urge you to seriously consider running for President of the United States. You bring the leadership, you bring the drive, and you bring a commitment to America. You bring a history of success. You bring a commitment to keeping our military strong and keeping Israel strong. There could never be another candidate in this election that would match your experience, would match your leadership, would match your capability and your judgment. You're the best candidate for President of the United States. With all 16 or 17 Republicans, with Miss Clinton, Mr. O'Malley, Mr. Webb, and of course Mr. Sanders. You're head and shoulders above the whole crowd. I strongly urge you, in no ifs, ands, or buts about it, to run for President of the United States. You're the best. Thank you, Merv Evans.
Well, I know a place, ain't nobody crying, ain't nobody worrying, ain't no smiling faces, no lying to the races. Oh, now help me, come on, somebody help me, I'll take you there. 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 Mercy, mercy me, I'll take you there. Oh, mercy, I'll take you there. Oh, help me, I'll take you there. As a country, we're moving to a new place. A place of opportunity, a place of growth, a place of unity. We are the United States of America. In the face of challenges, we rise to our greatest moments. Let's elect someone with the experience, the knowledge, and the heart to do the job. This 2016, let's continue moving forward. Someone whose history on foreign policy transcends 8 presidents. Let's pick a man we can trust to protect victims of domestic violence and fight for the rights of all Americans. And defend those who serve our country with honor and distinction. We can end this partisan gridlock and continue to rise. Let's decide that someone who's dedicated to their family, regardless of who they love, should lead a nation that is ready to step into the future and not back into the past. Let's keep going. Elect Joe Biden for president.
I've met an awful lot of people in my career, and I've noticed one thing. Those who are the most successful and the happiest, whether they're working on Wall Street or Main Street as a doctor or a nurse, or as a lawyer or a social worker. I've made certain basic observations about the ones who, from my observation, wherever they were in the world, were able to find that sweet spot between success and happiness. Those who balance life and career, who find purpose and fulfillment and where their ambition leads them. There's no silver bullet, no single formula, no reductive list. But they all seem to understand that happiness and success result from an accumulation of thousands of little things built on character, all of which have certain common features in my observation. First, the most successful and happiest people I've known understand that a good life at its core is about being personal. It's about being engaged. It's about being there for a friend or a colleague when they're injured or in an accident. Remembering the birthdays, congratulating them on their marriage, celebrating the birth of their child. It's about being available to them when they're going through personal loss. It's about loving someone more than yourself, as one of your speakers have already mentioned. It all seems to get down to being personal. That's the stuff that fosters relationships. It's the only way to breed trust in everything you do in your life. Let me give you an example. After only 4 months in the United States Senate as a 30-year-old kid, I was walking through the Senate floor to go to a meeting with Majority Leader Mike Mansfield. And I witnessed another newly elected senator, the extremely conservative Jesse Helms, excoriating Ted Kennedy and Bob Dole for promoting the precursor of the Americans with Disabilities Act. But I had to see the leader, so I kept walking. When I walked into Mansfield's office, I must have looked as angry as I was. He was in his late 70s, lived to be 100. And he looked at me and he said, "What's bothering you, Joe?" I said, "That guy Helms, he has no social redeeming value. He doesn't care." I really mean it. I was angry. He doesn't care about people in need. He has a disregard for the disabled. Majority Leader Mansfield then proceeded to tell me that 3 years earlier, Jesse and Dot Helms, sitting in their living room in early December before Christmas, reading an ad in the Raleigh Observer, the picture of a young man, 14 years old, with braces on his legs up to both hips, saying, "All I want is someone to love me and adopt me." He looked at me and he said, "And they adopted him, Joe." I felt like a fool. He then went on to say, "Joe, it's always appropriate to question another man's judgment, but never appropriate to question his motives, because you simply don't know his motives." That happened early in my career, fortunately. From that moment on, I tried to look back past the caricatures of my colleagues and try to see the whole person. Never once have I questioned another man's or woman's motive. And something started to change. If you notice, every time there's a crisis in the Congress the last 8 years, I get sent to the Hill to deal with it. It's because every one of those men and women up there, whether they like me or not, know that I don't judge them for what I think they're thinking. Because when you question a man's motive, when you say they're acting out of greed, they're in the pocket of an interest group, etc., it's awful hard to reach consensus. It's awful hard never to reach across the table and shake hands, no matter how bitterly you disagree, though. It is always possible if you question judgment and not motive. Senator Helms and I continue to have profound political differences. But early on, we both became the most powerful members of the Senate running the Foreign Relations Committee as chairman and ranking members. But something happened. the mutual defensiveness began to dissipate. And as a result, we began to be able to work together in the interest of the country. And as chairman and ranking member, we passed some of the most significant legislation passed in the last 40 years. All of which he opposed. From paying tens of millions of dollars in arrearages to an institution he despised, the United Nations. He was part of the so-called black helicopter crowd. To passing the Chemical Weapons Treaty, constantly referring to, we've never lost a war and we've never won a treaty, which he vehemently opposed. But we're able to do these things not because he changed his mind, but because in this new relationship, to maintain it is required to play fair, to be straight. The cheap shots ended. And the chicanery to keep from having to being able to vote ended, even though he knew I had the votes. After that, we went on, as he began to look at the other side of things and do some great things together that he supported, like PEPFAR, which, by the way, George W. Bush deserves an overwhelming amount of credit for, by the way, which provided treatment and prevention of HIV, AIDS in Africa and around the world, literally saving millions of lives. So, one piece of advice is try to look beyond the caricature of the person with whom you have to work. Resist the temptation to ascribe motive because you really don't know, and it gets in the way of being able to reach a consensus on things that matter to you and to many other people. Resist the temptation of your generation to let network become a verb that saps the personal away, that blinds you to the person right in front of you, blinds you to their hopes, their fears, and their burdens. Build real relationships, even with people with whom you vehemently disagree. You'll not only be happier, you will be more successful. The second thing I've noticed is that although you know no one is better than you, every other person is equal to you and deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. I've worked with 8 presidents, hundreds of senators. I've met every major world leader, literally, in the last 40 years. And I've had scores of talented people work for me. And here's what I observed. Regardless of their academic or social backgrounds, those who had the most success and who were most respected and therefore able to get the most done were the ones who never confused academic credentials and societal sophistication with gravitas and judgment.